back to work fear.
Yeah.
Tired of it.
Are you about to go in to work?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So it's exciting.
Go.
You
guys have jobs?
Yes.
Go. What's a job?
I do for a couple weeks. See how long it lasts.
It's nice though, isn't it? Feels good. Have the income.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it looks like we are live across the platforms.
Yeah.
We're live on Facebook. We're live on
I was
YouTube.
trying to cheat the participant list so I could see it, and then it kicked in, so I heard myself, and I was like,
Nice.
"Who's broadcast?
Who's that?
Oh wait, that's me. Oh god,
That's me talking to me. Awesome. Well, that looks good. And let me check the old Facebook situation. Facebook looks good. Hey, this is exciting.
Smoking Hot Nerds.
Now, what I want to try to do here is can you share a live stream while you're live streaming? That's the question.
Okay, you like
Like,
You mean,
Nico,
like, through
you want to
YouTube?
try it? You want to be our
Is
guinea
this
pig?
urinal innuendos?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could be. That's what the topic is tonight. Did you get the memo? Did you ever read
I'm
my
live
notes?
streaming momentarily.
Yeah. Yeah, Nico, see if you can share our live stream from your page, because that'd be sweet.
I went old school tonight and went for the legal pad on my notes.
Ooh, I like it.
I got
How about
3
that?
pages.
All positive, right?
So I got
Actually, there are some positives. I'll get into that, but I'm gonna throw some bones tonight.
Awesome. Yeah. I like it.
Dominoes? Smacking bones?
And I'm gonna throw Zack Snyder a bone or two.
It's nice of you. So to
I'm
everyone
pretty
out
rough
there,
on him usually.
what's that?
I'm pretty rough on him usually,
Yeah, well.
so
Easy target, usually.
yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, everybody. Matt, and Nick, and Brian, and Eric, all here
Hello.
to give you some
we've been going
information.
for a little bit.
What's that?
Nothing.
Oh.
Never mind. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. So
Okay,
we were gonna
he gave
do.
us clearance to ignore you.
We were gonna do this last week, but we ended up all binge watching Space Force. So if anyone's not if everyone's not watched Space Force yet, give it a watch and then give us a listen and see how how we felt about it is concurrent with how you feel about it. But spoiler alert, we all loved it. Thought it was crown jewel in
A+.
in the Netflix crown jewels. Well, so this is an interesting one because a few weeks ago, I guess the announcement was made that Zack Snyder, the original director and original writer of the Justice League, also director of 300 and what else? Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
What else is
Man
it?
of
Watchmen.
Steel,
Watchmen.
Watchmen.
Yep, Man of
Sucker
Steel.
Punch.
Sucker Punch, was going to be doing his own exclusive cut of the movie that he started. Well, he made, he directed essentially, right, on set.
Yep.
He directed it pretty much almost start to finish. I think that they had about 3.5 hour cut or so when he was off the project. Well, the movie being, of course, Justice League, DC's answer to the Avengers. But what's interesting about that is that, so just a little backstory on it real quick. Justice League obviously being the DC version of Avengers, where you've got Superman, Wonder Woman, and a myriad of other superheroes sort of forming their own little group. And this particular movie was written initially by Zack Snyder and Chris Terrio, who is also the writer of Rise of Skywalker, surprisingly. Argo, which is actually a good movie,
It is.
and a few other things.
Less MacGuffins in Argo.
Yes, much fewer MacGuffins, but there's a MacGuffin.
Unless
or two.
every hostage is a MacGuffin.
Well, and he also had historical source material to
Exactly,
go off
which
of.
helped.
True.
Yeah.
And so that was his and then Joss Whedon was brought in to actually write the screenplay with Chris Terrio. Zack Snyder, of course, directed the film, and his producing partner, his wife, was a producer on it, and then their daughter died. And so in that process where their daughter passed away, they decided to just go ahead and bring in Joss Whedon as the sort of, what would you call that, surrogate director? And so he came in and took over and directed the film to its release. And that is the version that we have now. And much to the chagrin of many fans, they were calling for the Zack Snyder cut.
Give me the Snyder!
Which is so interesting, because I would never guess that Joss Whedon would cause so much vitriol and people would call for Zack Snyder. That surprises me.
I think it's just the fight, like the poor showing. That was one of the resources I was looking at. It said it made something like 39 million on opening weekend, which is abysmal compared to the Marvel. So I don't know if it's part trendiness of jumping on a hashtag, but in some of the stuff I've seen, I don't think people are gonna like the Snyder cut.
No, you don't think so?
I don't, because everything that I've seen that Whedon redid removes the darkness from the Snyder cut.
Okay.
And there's a pun in there on purpose, but he takes out the darker components in light of a more humorous experience, I think. So I think people are going to go in and say like, yeah, it's a different cut, and then they're just going to be like, what the hell? Like, just because it's even more dark.
Of a slog.
Yeah, well, yeah. Aside from the fact that and then they're doing something interesting too, and we get it. But it's either going to be a 4-hour super movie, or they're toying with the idea of doing a 6-episode like series, with like cliffhangers, which I think you can't cliffhanger a movie we've already seen,
right?
So it's not like they can be like, I don't know, is it what happens in the tunnel? Oh yeah, Aquaman shows up. Right. Moving on.
Yeah. I suspect that the Snyder cut, based on everything I read that they changed, I think it's gonna be a very different movie. Honestly, like I said, I am not you guys probably know this. I'm not a Zack Snyder fan. I don't like most of his movies, and I, in general, don't really love what he's done with Batman and Superman. But I will say, they reshot a lot. From what I read, Whedon completely reshot Superman. You know, that's why they had Mustache Gate, because he was filming Mission Impossible. Right. It sounds like basically all of Superman's stuff was reshot. I read that they basically threw away 90 minutes of Snyder's footage.
Wow.
Something like that, yeah.
I think, honestly, what they probably should have done, barring the horrible tragedy that it sounds like ultimately led to Zack Snyder leaving the movie. It sounds like I'm willing to bet maybe there's more than just that. But I almost wonder maybe they should have just made Justice League 2 movies, because I read the original assembly of the movie was a 5-hour cut. So maybe they should.
Yeah, somewhere in there. It's big, yeah.
And it's trying to do a whole lot.
Well, there's 10 characters that were shot that aren't in the movie right now.
Yeah.
Like, they were doing Green Lanterns, they were doing Darkseid, Martian Manhunter, Lex Luthor was going to be bigger, Adam, Desard, which was kind of like Darkseid's mentor, I guess. And then that's not even all of them. And then like Lois Lane, Mira, which is Amber Heard's character, from Aquaman, Ares, which was the main villain, and Wonder Woman was going to be in it, and Silas, and then Cyborg's mom and dad were going to have way bigger parts, because apparently Cyborg, and
Willem Dafoe too.
Willem Dafoe, yeah.
Hammerhead.
I can't remember.
Was he really? I never saw Aquaman.
You haven't seen Aquaman?
No.
He's like,
oh boy.
He's like,
oh boy.
Well, on Aquaman, the only reason people once saw that movie is because of who directed it, and that was the smartest thing Warner Brothers could have done.
Who did direct it? I don't even know.
I can't. I've worked with a guy. I can't. Why am I blanking? It's the guy who did The Conjurings and all those.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna blank on it too. I'm looking it up here for us.
James Wan.
James Wan.
Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
Super cool guy, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the only. That's the only reason I went and saw it. But anyway, yeah, Willem Dafoe's character is like, it's kind of like Aquaman's mentor in the actual Aquaman movie. He was going to be in this movie too. But yeah, it kind of sounds like they maybe should have taken, unless they just completely weren't happy with what he did, because I know the runtime was a huge problem. Maybe they should have said, you know what, let's make 2 movies.
I think that was the number one thing. So I rewatched it. Brian, you watched it for the first
twice.
time. You watched it 2 times?
I watched it twice.
Get out of town. Wow.
Well, the reason I watched it twice is because I went into the first viewing with, shall we say, predetermined disdain.
Right.
So I wanted to watch it a second time, and maybe without that, and also take notes, because first time I just wanted to watch and sit there and simmer in my hatred. So I watched it again, and I'm glad I did, because I'd made some notes the first time that I'm like, that were like, what the hell was that notes that I'm like, they actually did explain, I just missed.
Right.
So I'm glad I did that. But yeah, anyway, yeah, I watched it twice.
Nice. Well, it's doing the due diligence. See, folks, we don't just make things up on the show. We watch the movies, then we make things up.
We do the hard work of watching movies.
Yeah. Were you guys able to revisit the theatrical release of it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I watched a clip thing showing.
Yeah, nice. Solid. Yeah. Because the thing that was interesting to me about it that I had forgotten about was how hurried and how rushed they wanted to squeeze in all the origin stories, and that was where I was just like, oh, it would have been rough to not know anything and come into this, but to know like a little bit, and to sit there and watch. Like, they kind of invested a little bit in Cyborg and the Flash's origin story, like just enough to give you enough, so which I think is cool. But my thought was, I know that with the huge success of the Avengers, DC needed an answer, and they needed to say something. But I think that going right to the Justice League without giving the due diligence to some of the other characters was probably a tiny bit of a mistake. Because watching Ray Fisher as Cyborg to begin with is, I think, by far the best actor in the entire cast. And his movie could have maybe been like their Iron Man, where it's just a movie completely out of nowhere about a character that's like kind of loved. And if they had actually thought about making something like that, maybe even making a Flash or something like that before that, would have been great. But there is a Cyborg movie in the works, but it's nowhere in the near future, I don't think.
Well, apparently what I read, Justice League was actually more or less supposed to be about and based around Cyborg.
Really?
Yeah, I think, like, for one, Matt, to your point, DC rushed the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Avengers was successful, but, you know, Marvel spent years building up to that.
Yeah.
And what was their... I mean, at least 10 movies before the Avengers came out?
Something like that.
So they spent years, and they, you know, and DC tried to do it all in 2 hours, basically. But apparently, which,
Only
you
like
know,
4.
at least in, it sounds like at least in Snyder's original cut, the movie was based around Cyborg. We got his origin, we got his backstory and everything. So I'd be curious if they still do that when his cut comes out.
Because it felt super out of left field. Cyborg did anyways.
Yeah.
In the original version, because suddenly you had this really interesting, compelling relationship between father and son, that you're kind of like, well, this is a cool movie, and then it keeps bouncing back and forth, and you don't really know what's going on. And so I was just sitting there going, I would have liked a whole Cyborg movie before I even got into the Avengers, to kind of get an idea of who he is and his powers, and so how he just keeps developing, and his thing, you know, the character physically continues to change, and his programming and all that. But Eric, you're saying we think it was 4 movies before Avengers?
I feel like it was 2 Iron Man, a Captain America, and a Thor. And then I feel like after that they just went straight into the first Avenger.
I guess if we're not
with that cast, right? Because they had 2 Hulk movies, But
I guess if
two
you
of them
include
were
the
with
Hulks.
Ruffalo. It was Banner and Ed Norton.
Yeah,
So they kind of snuck in some other ones, but right.
yeah. The
to
Ed Norton came out
solidify
right
that
when Iron
cast.
Man did.
Right as, yeah.
But
There's
then
only 4 before the Avengers, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
well, depends if you include
Well,
the
if you
Hulk.
count the Hulks, yeah.
Then it's
We don't.
6.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
little
because
bit.
they did those.
universe.
Then
They're not
Avengers
really, like,
landed, then they went
Kevin
into the
Feige.
individuals
Yeah.
like Ant-Man and Ragnarok. Or no, not even Ragnarok. It was
Dark World.
Dark World. Thank you.
Mhm.
And then
other-
They had to introduce the Civil War stuff with Iron Man and Captain America after Iron Man 3.
Guardians. Yeah.
Yeah, they had to introduce all that stuff to really kick off the Infinity
Yeah.
stuff.
So I think before we get into the nitty gritty of about the original one, I think what's really interesting about this one is that there's not going to be a theatrical release. It's going to go right to HBO Max, which is kind of HBO's new streaming. It's just
Yeah.
HBO Now is all it is, but it's shifted over to that being like their streaming thing, and that's it. That's what you get, and which I signed up for it on day one. Just because I was kind of ready to get in there. They've got some great documentaries and things like that. But as you were saying before, Nick, they're thinking about maybe doing like a 6-part series, right?
It's
Instead?
unofficial. It's in everything that I saw so far, nothing has really been like pinned down other than there was rumor that during the negotiations, like even the amount of money he's been given for, well, not only the amount of money, but also the purpose of the money. So there's rumors anywhere from like 20 to 50 million. And the rumors are anywhere from just doing some new audio dubs, potentially new scoring, and remastering some of the footage that from Snyder's original stuff that never actually got to process. Versus the 50 million range, which is developing whole new parts of the movie to allow for that 6 series with the cliffhangers. But then there's discussion about how Zack Snyder said that like 90% of his footage never hit the screen.
Right.
So maybe that's why it's not 50 million for reshoots, because there's enough that they can cut up the existing stuff. It's still in like wild speculation about what's going to happen. And I mean, part of it might even be depending on the success or the longevity of HBO Max. Like if their subscriber base sticks around or not, or is it going to be able to pull like a Mandalorian and get a bunch of people to sign up? Who knows? I mean, it's all super spec at this point. I don't think anything is locked in, other than it's happening.
Yeah.
But in what form? Nah.
Yeah.
And that they're going to add in Mary Poppins. That's the other thing. That's what
Just
I
to
read.
really mess with everything.
But the
Ninth member
dark
of the-
version of Mary Poppins.
She'll just pull all their weapons out of her purse.
Right.
They
Mary
can sneak in
Poppins
anywhere.
in the
What,
black uniform.
What I think the most consistent things I've been reading
Yeah.
was no reshoots. They're going to do lots of ADR, lots of new visual effects. And then they're going to do a whole new color pass. Junkie XL actually did an entire score before he was replaced by Danny Elfman. He just harkened back to the 1989 Batman. If you there's so many cues. I'm like, oh, I've heard that before.
God bless him. But, I mean, just I'm
Yeah.
we're good on Danny Elfman. Like we're good.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We call it. A day.
So I'd be curious to see if Zack Snyder's like, no, we're going to use that score and maybe we'll tweak it and we'll bring Chunky XL back. I don't know. But also, I guess there's going to, the whole thing's going to be recolored because the whole Russian in thing, it's all red, and apparently that's not what Snyder was going to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be interesting to see, because I guess not to go too deep into the nitty gritty of it. My biggest thing with the theatrical cut is just how fake it looked all the time.
Yeah. For sure.
So I really hope that's gonna get rectified.
So here's what's
Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
Is Steppenwolf going to get retouched? I would assume. 'cause
That was
Well,
brutal,
he-
man.
on the list.
Yeah.
His I mean, how speculative and spoilery do we want to get? We
wanna
can go
get
full
as-
beans on it.
As
So
spoilery.
Do it.
the one of the things that they mentioned, one of the big changes was, and this is the Whedon touch, is that Steppenwolf gets beheaded. Like Wonder Woman doesn't shatter his axe. Wonder Woman takes his head off, and then it gets warped to right in front of Darkseid, who is the precursor. In the DC universe, Darkseid was first. Then Marvel kind of adopted it and called him Thanos. So I guess I'm trying to remember that there's a lineage, but I think Steppenwolf is like his uncle, which is weird in like a god sense. But so like they're related basically. So when he gets his head cut off, that hex tube comes down, like warps his head away, and it lands in front of Darkseid, and then Darkseid comes. And then that's like part 2. That's when all the rest of this stuff happens with Darkseid and like the Dark Superman and all that kind of extra, like the super nerdy comic book stuff that they kind of like. I feel like they held back because it's already very specific knowledge, especially with the short origins. But then to like show the post Superman, like the post death Superman, the Injustice Superman, all that kind of fun stuff might just be like. Just a little too far into the nerd culture without the mainstream catching up to it so fast, or just totally rejecting the whole thing.
Well, but that was, to me, what would make it so interesting. And so when we've got a few years on you, Brian, but Death of Superman, the comic book, came out when we were about in middle school, give or take. And it was the first time in a comic book a main character like that died. Like you didn't really see him. I think Robin maybe died around the same time in the comics, so it would have been roughly around the same era. And so I remember the day it came out, going to the 7-Eleven right around the corner from my grandma's house, buying the comic where
Death of Superman
comic. And reading it once. I had already bought the plastic cover and the cardboard back for it. So I read it once, put it back in the cover, put it away for safekeeping.
Bagged and board.
Yeah, exactly. Bagged and board. So that was something that was sort of like a cultural moment for comic book readers. And then out of that came this whole interesting sort of series of I guess what you would call alternate Supermans, right? Because they all sort of like descended upon Metropolis and they wanted to sort of take over. And it broke open the world in an interesting way. And I'm, at this point, an extremely light... I don't read comics or anything like that, so I'm just listening, to the general chatter out there. And if I know enough about that, I think it would have been a really interesting way to go rather than just driving it home with the pillar sort of characters.
Well, I think the only other hesitation there too, though, is that a lot of people, like we had the whole Dark Knight series,
right?
So I think people would have been like, oh, so now it's just the Dark Superman series. Great. Like there could have been, I'm sure there's a focus group somewhere that was like, what if we introduced an evil Superman? And somebody was like, well, wasn't that the Dark Knight? So I'm sure the focus group, didn't react to that positively. But it also, like, if they're trying to compete with Marvel, I think going like Apocalypse Now is not the direction to go.
Right.
To try to compete with the Marvel in that line. You've got to kind of like meet up in the middle somewhere, even if you want to compete. Otherwise, you're just going to pass off super fast, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I feel leading up to this movie is Snyder got us Man of Steel. He gave us Batman v Superman, and they all had this tone that's maybe a little bit more, like you're saying, from Dark Knight kind of tone, more gritty, and they would, well, okay, if Marvel's going to be this, then we're going to be that, and it's going to be tough and gritty. And he starts it off with Man of Steel, where you get a Superman that you go, this doesn't feel like Superman. A lot of people are getting murdered everywhere. Right. All right. This is a take. And so, like, step one, Superman's off. And then they try and move forward. And you're like, how are you going to move forward when Superman's wrong? And it's like Marvel, to their credit, whether you like them or love them, they seem to get that nugget of who that character is, at least starting them off right. If they want to take them on a journey, they do that, but they earn it. They do it correctly first.
Yeah.
Like Captain America. He's not broody. It's not some dark, he's him living in a real world, maybe, quote unquote. And so he's got to traverse it, and you start taking away all of this stuff. Oh, he fights for America and the goodness. Oh, well, what if America's maybe evil? Oh, what do you do now? You know, and so then it takes him through these journeys. But yeah, the Superman, you're just like, what's going on? I mean, the Kevin Costner dad character is really kind of, I feel like that linchpin for this whole thing that just kicks it in kind of the wrong feel. And so then by the time you get here, it's like, what are we doing? And then you bring in Joss Whedon to kind of like, you know, in a way, there's the reason Snyder and his wife stepped away, obviously, over the tragedy of their daughter. But I think you also get that sense of people going, these movies aren't as cheery and they're not making that Marvel money. So what if we just grab that guy who just left Marvel?
Yeah. You know what's interesting about that is I think that the DC characters just have a little bit less, they're just less interesting in a way that don't lend themselves to the buddy movie of the Avengers. And because their powers are not as unique. Wonder Woman is basically just Superman, but can't fly. They all have the Flash's power, because they show it all the time. Because like the opening of Justice League is a great example where Wonder Woman is basically just bending time the entire time, and she's like dodging bullets, and it's like slow motion bullets, like Matrix style going by. Bouncing them off.
Little 180s.
Yeah, and then the Flash is running around Superman, but the Superman sees him and kind of catches him, and I was sitting there going, wait a second, they're all the Flash, and Wonder Woman is just Superman. And Aquaman's basically just Superman in water. And then Cyborg's just Superman with guns in his arm. I'm like, wait a second. This isn't fun anymore.
Well,
they have weaknesses, but they're definitely not individualized.
Right.
You know, right? Like you could realistically make a character swap at any point to solve a problem. Whereas Marvel has, and it could just be the way they write the scenarios too, is that you only have a Spider-Man solution or a Doctor Strange solution.
Right.
But in this movie, it's like, well, if everyone can bend steel, don't have a runaway train.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if everyone has the opportunity to stop
what if you have 6 runaway trains?
Everyone's got to get one.
And the thing they kept doing in this movie, like with Batman, is like, I've always said, like, Batman's the most badass at all because he's not supernatural or doesn't have powers of any way. He's just has unlimited financial resources.
Jerk.
Yeah.
Where's my
and it's just kind of a badass on top of that, but it's all, you know, it's not supernatural, not magic, and they love to point that out in Justice League.
Right.
Like, well, you better hang back because you don't have powers. And Flash is like, what's your superpowers? I'm rich, as we get into my super crazy Mercedes, which obviously Mercedes put money in on this movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We would hope
Time. Yeah.
And they point that out to Batman 3 or 4 times. I'm like, well, you know, he's keeping up with all you guys. Yeah, he may have to, you know, hit one of his bat planes when you guys can just fly, but he's right there.
Right.
You know, and for the Russian thing, he goes in first, and he has no powers.
It's a tough place to be when you start off a character with basically being invulnerable. And so, and then when you bring him back and you're like, okay, now they all have to fight the invulnerable character, it's like, but it just puts you in a really tough spot, you know?
Well,
Right.
and I think there's that too, but also I think they put them in scenarios which are general solution based, but then they also choose the dumbest solutions.
Right.
So kind of like the Lost in Space thing where like the solution's easy. So speaking of, you know, Batman charges into the nuclear plant, plays the car alarm sound and collects up all the bad guys, right? All the parademons. Okay. So did we not 45 minutes ago just see Alfred remotely control a bat device? Like why is he even in that car?
Right.
You also have a plane.
Right.
Yeah.
Just remotely fly that thing, buzz it around, and send it into the ground or the sun or whatever the hell you're going to do with it. Like, there's no reason for Bruce Wayne, Batman, sorry everybody, Batman, to...
Spoilers! Spoilers!
There's no reason for Batman to be in that scenario whatsoever.
Right.
Like, the guy builds a troop carrier in what feels like 2 weeks, and doesn't figure out he can remote control a plane and just play that sound and just lure him away.
Yeah.
We got
He's
draw
got
them all to one spot, nuke them, done.
Yeah. All
Right.
good.
That's the thing. It's like, I know that you have to write stories to create drama and tension, blah blah blah. But when you sit back and go, that's a pretty dumb solution.
Yeah.
That's where this one fails.
Yeah.
Where like the Marvel ones do just a little bit better, where the solutions aren't necessarily always so simple or so obvious that when they have the solution, you're like, oh, that's creative, that's good work.
Right. Yeah.
But this one's like, I'm gonna put myself in danger. There's no need.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're telling me you can't devise a homing missile that has a speaker on it?
Mm-hmm. Well,
You
that's
just spin it around and drop it into the ground. Like,
Why'd you go there, Bruce? Because I hate myself. I just want to feel more pain.
yeah, right. It's they're making. That's the only thing I have with the movie. I liked the movie, but my thing is that like there some of the solutions you're just like, okay, that's really dumb. Like, it's just, I mean, come on, man, that's just dumb. And like, I even had this issue way back with like Batman versus Superman and stuff, where the thing I don't like about the current Superman is he never, in the comic books and the other movies, he never had a sense of hubris of like, I know I'm a god, so I'm gonna be dumb and lazy. And I know we talked about this, where like Batman was trained by Ra's al Ghul and has all these like fighting skills. So when he fights Superman, it's like a trained master assassin versus a guy who just works out a lot.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like that's how they pitch that, so that like when he, in that movie in particular, and we'll come back to Justice League, but when in that movie in particular, when he shoots him with like the kryptonite dust or whatever, he does that twice.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes Superman look like an idiot, because not only is he supposed to have super speed, so if you shoot anything at him, you're telling me he can't be like, oh, that's kryptonite.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Back up.
No, he takes it in the face
Quickly.
and then he takes it in the face again. It's like,
It's my kind of movie.
Yeah.
knock it off, man.
Not that kind of movie.
But it's, it's the same.
That was just hanging out there. Someone had to jump on it.
It's called Man of
So-
something else.
So that kind of stuff is annoying and dumb. But one of my favorite parts of the Justice League is when they bring him back, and yeah, there's like, they're all trying to restrain him, and the Flash is just like, I'm gonna go run and push something.
Run in
Like,
circles.
damn it, stupid solution.
Mm-hmm.
But as he's running, and then there's that great scene of like, it's like time has stopped, but then like
When Superman's fast
his
enough, he
eyes
sees
switches
it.
on. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super dope. But then it makes those other problems just like, well, it's not like you have it's not like we're playing a video game and you have limited resources and you can only do something one time and then you need to rest for 24 hours. Like, you're Superman, man. If you can move that fast all the time, just move that fast all the time.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Basically,
do it, like-
just, you could have ended it with Batman by literally just holding him down and punching him 100 times.
Well,
and he's done.
It's not
Like,
even
you
100 times.
yeah,
like,
like one
people
time
have done
maybe.
super nerdy things about like one punch.
Yeah, one punch.
Or the
That's it.
fact that he could just like throw him into space. Guess who can't breathe in space? I'm guessing Batman can.
Or hit him with the laser eyes. That would
Yeah,
do
the
it.
laser eyes would
There's-
do it.
It's
Yeah.
all that stuff that's like, at least with like the Marvel stuff, when you have Thor versus Iron Man, like they're both kind of holding their own.
Right.
But then there's certain points where Thor's like, wait a minute, I have lightning and you're mechanical. So
Right.
and like it's like, there we go, figure that out. But this one, it's like the people didn't do the research on what the characters were, and just said like, oh, it's superhero, certain things. Oh, he talks to fish. I got it. Cool. And moving on.
Yeah.
Like
Or
they didn't
like
actually.
the feeling of like you want these people that are making these things to like literally have the toys and be going, all right, so then he's gonna come over here.
Yeah.
He can do this.
Right.
So then if he does this, wait a minute, it's like in some movies you get that sense. You go, oh, these guys playing with toys. Look at this, and
Yeah.
they're sticking it up on the screen. It's fun, but it's problem solving, and
Yeah.
you see them. You have a feeling that whoever's writing these things are working through this, and if they don't do something obvious, they at least address it, or they do something. So yeah, they don't just look lazy and stupid.
Yeah. Well, and then even like, so that a very, very same scene, they resurrect Superman. Spoiler. But the mother box goes flying. If that's the last one, why is that just falling on a police car and then nobody's looking?
Yeah, they
for
leave it unattended, and they're all like, "Oh crap, Steppenwolf showed up."
They're like,
Oops.
whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah. again, it's just poor writing, which means poor problem solving, because it's like,
Yeah.
if that's literally the last one, and you have all this security around it, and that takes off when Superman comes back, somebody looks for it. If not anybody, Cyborg especially goes to find that, because as far as he knows, that's the only reason he exists.
Right.
So if that is gone, is then he gone? You know, it's like
It gives it
that
gives it actually a little bit of gravitas. You know, gives him
Yeah.
some purpose. I think that gets lost a lot of times when you're sort of writing a script in a vacuum, and when you are it's like at the point in which Terrio and Whedon are writing the screenplay, they're somebodies now. They don't have to prove anything to anyone. Now they're somebody's. It's like writing anything. So there's not always this need. It's just, man, I wouldn't know. I've never done it, but when you're writing a major, it has to be a blockbuster, right? So it has to have all of these set pieces. You're already writing a movie for movie stars, for legitimate movie stars, and for massive pop culture icons. How do you write something that has the heart it needs, that has the story it needs? I mean, really, the only way to do that is to sit and write and make a movie for 4 or 5 years like Pixar does. Otherwise, you're just never going to get something that looks and feels the same way. You're talking about the effects look terrible, and it's just one of those things where I think that there's so many. I don't think there was a single frame that didn't have an effect, except for maybe in like Bruce Wayne's like little weird art gallery where he hangs out with people weirdly, and that, like, everything else had an effect shot in it. Like, even just normal stuff. Like, I was texting Brian, I was like, why when they're standing in a field is it a fake field? Do they not have the dollars to go to a field?
CGI corn.
Yeah.
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 Right.
It's like CGI sky, CGI corn, all this kind of stuff, where it could have just been a scene with 2 people in a field, but nope. They built some fake wheat and put it in a soundstage, and it's crazy. And so the whole movie just looks bad.
It's the look and feel in general. Like, it's the way he color grades this stuff, which, I mean, in The Watchmen, it worked. But, like, in Batman vs. Superman... Yeah, so it totally worked. But, like, like, the beginning of Justice League when he's chasing the criminal, and he's like, they can smell your fear. Which apparently that was another Whedonism.
Yeah, that was all Joss Whedon.
And it's just like... It looks like they're the light brights back there, the rest of the city. It's like, or you could go shoot on a building, or I've seen CGI Gotham, New York City before, and it can look way better than that. Right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the movie a little bit from the beginning, because the Justice League in its current form, I don't like it. Well, I mean, it's not great. It's not a movie I need to watch for a third time, but it's but that's the interesting, weird feeling. The weirdness of this movie was that it opens, and it just looks bad. It just the lighting is harsh, and it just looks like not comic booky in a good way. It just looked just too crisp and it was just weird. The acting, the guy from what's that show on Netflix? That Sonny's
Space
on.
Force.
No, not that one. The detective show about serial killers.
Why can't I remember the name of that show?
Just
The Alienist? No.
I'm sorry, Sonny.
Yeah, I know, right? Forget.
What's are you talking about when he's tracking down the guy to get the Parademon to show up?
Yeah, that actor. So at the very beginning of Justice League, Batman encounters a thief. And the thief is played by a guy who's got a main character role in a Netflix show that we're completely blanking on, that our friend
I haven't
Sonny
seen
is
it,
in.
to be honest.
Oh, okay. And so...
I'm on it.
Yeah, get on that. So... it looks terrible, and it just and the dialogue is goofy, and he's like, they can smell your fear, or whatever he said. I couldn't even understand it. And then it cuts to this really cool, like, little intro thing, where I really like the Tom Waits song, and I really like sort of the feel of it. It felt scary. I was like, this world where Superman no longer exists, and it's just everyone's mourning and having this terrible time. And it would have been a great beginning to a movie, but the thing is, it felt like two completely different movies. Like
Mindhunter.
Mindhunter. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're talking about FNG. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
I guess I really like the opening. Like the cell phone thing was kind of weird. I mean, I don't know. Like I get why they did it. It was just, I don't know. It was funky. But I think
with
Superman.
where he's talking to Superman.
Oh, that.
on like
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think when the movie, like, yeah, the opening looks terrible, but I'm like, well, this looks like other Zack Snyder superhero movies. Like, again, I don't like the way most of his movies look, but the opening, like, you know, the heist on the bank, that's when Wonder Woman shows up. Like, I get that scene was really just to introduce her in the movie, but like, otherwise that, you know, when I first saw this scene, like, okay, cool. So one of these guys is gonna be with Steppenwolf or something.
Gonna be tied in somehow.
And that scene was not tied in at all. That was just for Wonder Woman to show up and kick the crap out of these dudes and look like a badass for a minute or two. It's just like, but no, that scene served no purpose whatsoever. Maybe it will in the Snyder cut, but it's
it was supposed to give you a tone. Well, in the Snyder cut, she doesn't throw the bomb, and a bunch of people die. But it also it's what I took from it was that its sole purpose was to show, kind of like that Superman's gone. So just a state of lawlessness where people are like, I'm not even here to rob the bank. I'm just here to blow everyone up.
Right.
Yeah.
Like to introduce anarchy.
Yeah.
That's what I got from it, was that they were like, there's no consequence. Like there was lawlessness pre-Superman. Then Superman shows up and it's like, oh wow, now there's legitimate potential, could be caught doing anything. And then when that threat is gone, then the chaotic lawlessness comes back. And that's what I took from it, as just demonstrating.
I think you're right, and if they had done that with the other movies, then I think it would have had weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Weight.
But instead, it sort of set up, it all set up Batman versus Superman, which is kind of the sentiment that we had, at least, you know, early when I first watched Man of Steel, was the first time I heard the term disaster porn. Because that's what it seemed like, is that it wasn't that he was there protecting the world. He was there just leveling buildings when he was fighting space demons.
I'm going to save you. Oh, sorry, we just slammed through another skyscraper.
Yeah.
Oh, we hit two more.
Yeah.
Oops. 9/11, 9/11, 9/11. Yeah, and it's just like, why are you 9/11ing left and right?
Yeah.
Why is Superman, why is he not taking this out to the country?
Yeah.
Why, he should be doing everything he can to be like, we're not going to fight in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't necessarily a sense of care in Superman's approach.
Right. There's no sense of care with him. And also, he's kind of played in Batman vs. Superman. He's still this person that everyone's like, is he a villain? What is he? He never even got established as a hero to the general public. Mm-hmm. And then he just dies, but it's like, I don't know, I can't remember.
They showed a couple. I mean, there was like, he saved like the miners.
There was a montage, isn't there?
Yeah, there was like a montage of him doing stuff, and then he like saves the miners, and they do the Dia de los Muertos thing. Right, so it's they started to like shift it, but then, Batman's whole crusade about, is he just as bad as Zod kind of thing, where that was just a weird. That was I don't have the timing, but it makes me wonder if they were competing with the Civil War stuff with Iron Man and Captain America. They're like, that was just tonally what they were trying to do, but for no reason. Right. They show in Batman Superman, right? There's the fight. They open it with the fight from Man of Steel. And then they show the Wayne Tower crashing down on the guy who loses his legs, and now Bruce Wayne is charging into the dust, and everyone's running away. And then he saves him, and then it's his crusade to be like, I'm going to get back at this god who destroyed stuff. Which is just a weird motivation. And not even...
least in that's at least something, because one thing with Man of Steel, all that chaos happens. thousands of people die, probably. You don't really get a count.
Right.
And then at the very end, it goes back to the Daily Planet or whatever. And some dude's like asking Lois Lane, I was like, hey, you want to go grab some food? Or like, you want to go catch a game? And everything seems normal. And I really wish she would have turned to him and go, I'm sorry, I would love to go out, but I have 5 more funerals to go to tonight.
Yeah,
because half of the city's dead.
Right.
Remember?
Yeah.
Goodbye. But instead it's just like that movie ends. It's like, yay, the day is saved. It's like, no, you can't do that. You can't do both.
Yeah.
And so at least with Batman vs Superman starts, you at least get that fallout of, wait a minute, a bunch of terrible stuff happened. What's going on with this? So initially I went, okay, at least there's some reckoning for that. Yeah. But then, it's just...
And then he gets into this one, and they bring him back, and they have this stupid line of like, I don't know why you brought me back, you don't even like me. And then Batman's like, well, I don't like you. No, there's a whole movie of you not liking him, man. Were you not aware?
Dude, we're bros. We had a fist fight. Now we're cool. We hugged it out, man.
Our moms have the same name.
Yeah, we both have Marthas.
Yeah.
I think my favorite line of that whole movie was when it was so crazy. So Superman in Justice League goes to where Aquaman is kind of hiding out every now and then, and apparently the story goes Aquaman brings them fish. All right, so he corrals the fish into being there so they can all be slaughtered. It was just like, wait, what? Okay, I thought he was supposed to, never mind, I won't, I was like,
come on guys, sure. I'm not doing that trick again, really, come on
I'm not gonna do that thing that I'm probably gonna do. So first of all, Batman's in this like hut, and he's like, show me a guy. I want to talk to a guy. Like, he's looking for Aquaman, and he keeps asking for, and he's talking to Aquaman. I'm like, okay, so you're talking to the only 6'6" guy in this village with steel blue eyes who could probably be Aquaman. Mm-hmm. Let's just pretend like he's not.
Well,
cool.
And he had the file too. Like the file shows Jason Momoa.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, approach.
Right?
It's like he knows who he's talking to. Don't do this. Like, I'll give you 20,000 to talk to him right now. Wait, you are talking. They know who he is. It's not like no one in the room doesn't know that that's also Aquaman. They're all in on it, dude. You know that's him.
But that's my favorite line because he says, I'll give you 20,000 to tell me about what those boxes are. So he sees the mother boxes, the drawing, hieroglyphics on the wall, and he says, "I'll give you 20,000 to tell me what those are." And then Aquaman says something pithy to him, and then he says, "I'll give you 30 to tell me what those boxes are." It was just like you just jumped it up 30. You just jumped it up 10 grand. Come on, Bruce,
all right.
you can do
I was
better
planning
than that.
on 100 grand, but I was gonna see how low you go. 500,000.
Yeah, I'll give you 20.
10 million.
21. Yeah, just jump it up a little bit. I was like, this is so bonkers. I mean, he doesn't even say dollars, so I don't even know what they use in Iceland,
I just think he just throws a number. I don't think he says. I think he's like, I'll give you 20,000 to talk to the man. Yeah. And then he sees these. I'll give you 30,000 to boxes. Yeah. And that's no units.
You should have doubled it at least. I'll give you 50 or something.
Fish sticks.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, then Momoa is like, so you fight crime dressed as a bat. It's like, yes. Yeah. We all know who Batman is at that point. He's been Batman for like 30 years.
Right.
And
he's old. He's old and pissy. And Robin's dead.
Yeah.
Suddenly he's novel to Aquaman because Aquaman's not been like he's been off the grid to his own society, but not to anyone else really.
Right. He's been shrugging off his responsibilities in the ocean.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other subject too of like the timeline between Justice League and Aquaman. I don't know which one came first.
I think Justice League came first because for anyone, spoilers, you haven't seen Aquaman, it's not as bad as
it's a lot
you
of fun.
would think it is. It's not great.
Hilarious.
But I'm pretty because I was wrestling with this the other day when I watched it the first time. I think Justice League came first because I think that's when he first meets Mira. Because then when Mira shows up at the beginning of Aquaman, it's like, I need your help. So I think I think when they first met is in Justice League. I do think that came first.
Yeah, and that does track, but it's definitely interesting because when she meets him in Aquaman, she doesn't. I can't remember how she finds out that he's the son of the queen. Because in Justice League, she calls him out. Says like, "Oh, the son of Queen something something," and when he says like, "I'm gonna need to borrow something from you," that means he's aware of tridents, but he's not wearing like the suit, which he doesn't get until Aquaman. But then when he meets her in Aquaman, it's not like, hey, didn't we just save the world from Steppenwolf?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
like it's just the timing there. I don't know how it works.
Or we can just say it's.
Well, then there's also like if it comes this is the thing. If it comes after Justice League, that typhoon that swallows up Aquaman's home is stopped by Superman. It's the same thing with the Civil War when Shield's talking about Tony Stark and they go taken down by Hydra. Iron Man shows up.
Right.
It's the same thing. That tidal wave comes and wipes out the city. Superman shows up and stops the water.
Honestly, I think because they started shooting Aquaman after Justice League came out and it, didn't make money. I think they were just like, do whatever you want.
And that's 100% what happened. Yeah. But if you look at the Marvel movies, they don't seem to have this level of hiccup of like odd timings, especially when the later Iron Man ones deal directly with his PTSD from Avengers 1. So it's like they took the time to lay this out, and DC is just constantly playing this like catch-up game.
There's one dude in control. Nobody else had this Kevin Feige that's running stuff.
Yeah, no, and that's fair.
And so DC, they had Snyder, but then I think, where Snyder was taking things, and all of a sudden DC's going, maybe we go a different direction. And that's where I think then you get like, have Suicide Squad over here, and it's going to throw this splat on the wall. And then, Aquaman, throw that splat over there. And so it's just kind of chaos of going, which tone, what are we doing?
Hey, let's have Joaquin Phoenix make a bad Joker movie,
All right, Joker, how about that? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Bird of Prey. I haven't seen Birds of Prey.
It's
Emancipation of Proclamation.
It's something to watch.
Don't.
I'm still gonna watch it at some point in time, but it's crazy though to think. I mean, the intricacies that come from the Avengers, of the Marvel proper movies, the intricacies of the storyline managed to actually work to the point where you don't really remember what movie was what. At least I don't, in a good way.
Yeah, they blend.
Where it's just a story. It's this big
one giant
story. Yeah, exactly. Except for the Guardians movies, those can go die. I just don't think they're good, and they're too violent. But we've talked about it only 7 times on the podcast.
Listen to the previous podcast. We go on.
Go back to
That's Matt's thing.
I wasn't around, so we have to do it again.
Oh boy.
Just briefly. I don't like the violence in the movies. It's just too realistic. These are supposed to be kids' movies, and they're supposed to be enjoyable family films, and they kill like 30 people with an arrow. I just don't like it. So it just doesn't work for me in my the sensibilities of. I take spiders outside. Okay, like I just don't like it.
This is a man that now lives in the same town as his nieces and nephews.
Exactly right. So I have those thoughts about what it's like to for kids to watch stuff like that. So, but anyways, with the Justice League movies, I think that the rush ahead to sort of like get all these characters like a little tidbit of a little morsel of their past into it, the ones that we didn't know already, did a disservice to the good characters. But then we see that, all these characters have these really cool superpowers. Like, they're all super strong. We're going to see something really cool. And then what do? They have them digging a grave with shovels. Why do they have superheroes digging a grave with shovels?
The thing is, they make... the Flash makes the joke. He's like, I could have this done in a second, right? And so it's like, they know their own stupidness.
Okay, if that's the case, that's fine. But first of all, it's a perfect square. And there's no way you're getting a casket out of a perfect square or perfect rectangle like that. You have to dig so far around it to get it. Really nitpicking here. But then the other thing, besides that, one of my biggest pet peeves in movies, there's a few and they came up in this film oddly enough, but one of my biggest pet peeves in movies is giving characters a bad action. And the one that they did so poorly was the janitor. They got this janitor character who is mopping a floor with a hand mop in a bazillion-dollar company.
And it's a graded steel floor
metal
also.
grate.
What is he doing? I mean, companies like that in general would just have like a big floor mop cleaner thing that you'd probably be writing anyways. Yeah. So it's just bad, lazy writing to give him a mop. I mean, that building was what, like 3 million stories high? So does he just go floor to floor and hand mop it?
He's Sisyphus.
Yeah, right. So anyways, it's just little things like that just take me out of it. When you do just lazy stuff, and then that whole entire grave digging thing was just bonkers.
They even like the
what is that? I forget that.
It's when they go dig up Superman's body.
Yeah.
It's him and Cyborg, and they have their little like fist bump, cultural appropriation joke moment.
So bad.
But another thing that always irked me a little bit too about the lazy dumb stuff is the family at the nuclear power plant that gets like these parademons could do all this amazing stuff, smell fear, blah 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 blah. But no, they're gonna leave this family alone, who's clearly scared shitless, but is stopped by a couple of boxes next to a door frame. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand the purpose of that whole family. Like they're in this little home. It's surrounded by parademons. Unless it's like, I was looking to see, did I miss a cue? Like, is that Stargirl? Is that somebody who I don't know who they are, but they're definitely somebody very important and powerful. And then the whole gag with them is like, oh, well, the bugs left. Cool, let's get in a truck. Oh, guess what? The truck breaks down. Yeah, no shit.
It felt like
and
a
then,
like
let's
a
not
reshoot.
even mention that see, you went where my stupid brain goes. So it's stupid brain part 2. Logistics. If Flash accelerates that pickup truck, inertia sends her. She's gone. They all fly out of the back of that pickup truck. I don't care.
You gotta start slow.
I think. Well, for also what I read is the whole family. That's not in the Snyder cut. That's something that's a rewrite Whedon did afterwards.
You can tell.
And I think the whole reason that family exists is so that Superman can call Flash a slowpoke later.
Gotcha. Just the entire reason for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
do the
so
whole like
you can have
take the
Superman
left, I'll do the ones on the right.
Holding the building, right? So that's when they do that gag.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, if they were gonna have them, they should have been tied up in the lair, and they were gonna be sacrifices. For if they were still gonna try to set up Darkseid, which I know they completely cut Darkseid out, and just Steppenwolf says his name one time. Like, yeah, they could have been sacrifices, or they were food for the parademons. Like,
but it was
if you really,
that level of lazy where the first. So I audibly said, I'm alone watching this movie. And they cut into that first bit where the family comes up, and I was like, "Oh, I forgot about this." Like, I just said it to myself.
She grabs the bug spray out of the kitchen.
Yeah, but the first shot and his shotgun's like on the wall. It was like, who hangs a gun on a wall?
Shotgun.
And then that's the gun he pulls. Yeah, it was just, but it was so clearly a reshoot. But that brings up a really interesting point to me about the new Snyder cut that's going to come out next year. What are the two most obvious ways that they've tried to fix a story in movies? Extra special effects and ADR. So when you do ADR, you can tell that they had to redesign the direction of the scene or the movie, or lay it over. And you see a lot in TV. They're like, oh, we still want this scene, but it doesn't really go well, so let's just fix it with some ADR, with some dialogue that the character had maybe off screen, or
always on someone's back.
Always on someone's back.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this new movie's gonna be 6 hours of people talking words that they didn't talk before, and special effects that weren't in there, so we could map it all back together. That sounds terrible.
I think it's because a
whole lot for not much. Yeah.
The special effect. So, like, one of the things that they're gonna do that's been exposed is Barry Allen's backstory, but he also saves his future wife from a car wreck. So that might be the special effects, because that was just blocked out with like basic animation. That wasn't fully fleshed out. So that's a whole thing that needs to come out. There's also apparently the Cyborg his father dies. So there's that whole scene of his father dying, and then, I mean, they
Does it go?
nice.
Jill Morton.
Well done. Well done. Yes. But then there's also apparently 2 Green Lanterns are supposed to show up, but it's not
Nice.
Hal Jordan. It's like Kilowog and the fish guy. It'll come to me later.
Mm-hmm.
So that's full animation. That's full. That's full special effects.
Well,
Right.
honestly, like
Makes
from
sense.
everything I've read that they changed and took out, like honestly, if they're gonna do this, they need to go back to the first, the first cut he turned in, and not just well, let's add 20 more minutes and we'll change some visual effects and
Right.
call it good. Like if
Right.
they're really gonna do this, because like everything I've read they took out. Which one thing I will say, they definitely gutted his movie. Whether or not
Yeah.
that one was good or is going to be good, that's beside the point. They definitely gutted his movie, like huge, big time.
Like a fish. Sorry, Aquaman.
Like- Yeah, definitely like a fish. So, it just like I'm gonna be really pissed off if because I'm gonna watch it now just because I've done all this reading. Like it's
Oh,
just it's
100%,
morbid
yeah.
curiosity. So it's like, guys, if you're gonna do this, like please, like Matt said, please don't just add shots so that you can put a line of dialogue back on Batman's back, or or don't just change the visual effects or recolor grade it and put a different score. Like, no, do the other movie, because I think what Zack Snyder first turned into Warner Brothers as his director cut was a very different movie.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, have you guys ever watched the original Supermans, the Christopher Reeves ones?
Oh, yeah.
Richard Donner got, I think it was Superman, I don't know if it was the first or second one. Richard Donner got fired halfway through, I think it was the second one, and they brought this other guy in, and then I think they were still shooting, and then later they did the Donner cut of that movie, and it was a very different movie.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, if Warner Brothers, if you're listening, I know you're not, but let's just pretend you are.
Maybe.
If you're gonna do this, please just do his movie, because if not, you're just wasting everyone's time. I don't have high hopes that I'm gonna like Snyder's cut either, but I am curious now. So if you're gonna do it,
Well, I think if anything, I agree. Make the movie. Don't try to weave it back into our expectation of the current Justice League. Just make that movie as is. But like I said, if the stuff I've read too, it's definitely gonna be a different movie. I also don't think people are gonna like it, just because it's dark. Like it's going down a very dark road, which I don't think people are gonna respond, or even just to the effect be more interested in seeing more of these characters. To be honest, because it's like, if you're gonna do a evil Superman movie, that's a standalone. Like, don't try to tie it into an existing Batman Superman Part 3. Don't
do The Boys, which was done, or do some other thing. Was it Gunn who did I didn't watch that movie where it's like the take on if Kid Superman was evil.
Oh,
Elizabeth
Brightburn.
Banks was in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that movie's
Brightburn,
good.
right. I mean, it's like, just
Brightburn
do
is
something like
good.
that. Like Snyder needs to go do that stuff. He needs to not touch these big characters, I think, because he wants to twist these characters just a little too much. And so, again, there's a big appetite for that type of thing.
Yeah.
Dark Superman, evil Superman, all that stuff. But it's like, but maybe that's not the main DC brand.
Well, I think
That's not what they
it's gonna hurt. It's definitely gonna hurt future development for the DC characters, because not everyone is as in tune with it as we are, so they're not gonna go see it, or they're gonna go see it and be like, "And I'm done here." Like,
I
still want to see.
close. I mean, really.
Well, no, I mean,
really
I want to
close.
see 1980. I want to see Wonder Woman 1984 or whatever. I think that's gonna be solid. I would love.
But that's not Snyder. Again, that's a different.
But I'm saying in the. I'm
right.
going
This
more on
this
the
incarnation.
Yes.
of these characters.
Wonder Woman
This
saved
set of
it.
actors playing these movies.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah. If Wonder Woman
so-
hadn't been good, I would have been out. And I think a lot of people would have been. But because it was so great, it saved the DC thing for sure. Saved it some credibility. Gave it some credibility without a doubt.
Well, yeah, when I saw Wonder Woman, I said it out loud. I was like, well, someone over there knows how to make a movie, apparently.
Yeah,
What
for sure.
what the hell's the problem? But I guess my whole thing is, after the Dark Knight trilogy, well, it's actually 2 movies because we don't talk about Dark Knight Rises because I hate that movie. But anyway, well, it's just like the thing that I loved about Batman, and those especially, is they made it real. They made it all very feasible in real life. And I think that's how Batman works. And when, Christopher Nolan made the Dark Knight trilogy, okay, well, Christopher Nolan's going to be executive producer on Man of Steel because we're basically just going to do that again, but with Superman this time, which they didn't do at all.
Right.
They're like, well, we're going to make it dark like Dark Knight. It's like, well, the Dark Knight, yeah, it's dark themed, but its strength is it's real. There's no supernatural magical characters or anything. So it's like, we're just going to do the Dark Knight treatment. And it's like, no, you just wanted to make the Avengers with lots and lots of violence and murder, basically.
Well, and it doesn't work, especially with Superman, because Superman does not have the limitations that Batman does. Even an untrained Superman, even a juvenile Superman, does not have the limitations that Bruce Wayne does. And it's, I think we talked about. Have we talked about the character choices? Should we move on?
Sure.
The casting choices?
Please.
So, well, let's top of the top. Gal Gadot, amazing. Supreme. Like, amazing as Wonder Woman. But even just bringing... So I would applaud DC in doing this, of diversifying their casting. How's that?
Extent, yeah.
Because, I mean, she's Middle Eastern woman. As playing a very, in the movie, or at least in when it was originally sourced, a very like super middle America type person, right? I think casting, I know you guys don't agree with me on this one, but I love Henry Cavill as Superman.
Oh, I think he's great.
I'm
okay.
fine with him.
I like the way he plays it because, I think we talked about this in a long time ago, but the Superman that he plays currently, shouldn't have hubris, and I think a lot of stuff that Cable does with his acting is when something happens and he has to solve the problem, it's always just like he knows that the solution is to throw it into space, but that's not the right solution, So I love the internal conflict of him knowing that he has the solutions to these problems, but they're not right. There's that Kevin Costner justness on top of it. I thought the kid who played Cyborg,
Ray Fisher,
well, so good.
And just to put it in context, it was his first film ever.
Really?
Yeah. Justice League was his first film. So he'd
been in stuff.
He started working as an actor as a kid, not working, but just did like middle school theater and things like that. Just had a real aptitude. Went to theater school, and he was he was doing Shakespeare. And which it shows, that he's this extremely trained classical actor, and so the realism that the actual angst, it looks like he's playing Macbeth, like it's really that level as Cyborg, and this was his first film that he ever shot.
Yeah, he crushed it.
Yeah, killed it.
And then Ezra Miller as Flash, I like this. I like this version of Barry Allen. I watched the WB show, which gave me personally more information on the backstory of Flash. But I like the social awkwardness that they gave the Flash in this one. Because I've said this, I always like it when somebody has powers, but they're not just like the master of their own domain. Like there are still flaws in what they can and can't do, and I think he does a great job of even addressing, as silly as it is. He's like, I don't like bugs or death, or like I've never been in a fight. I think that's great character stuff. Yeah, and then made even better by just as there's like little jerkiness in the way that he delivers. I think one of my favorites too is Momoa as Aquaman, because that's a choice. I mean, Aquaman in the comics is like the Aryan race, so the fact that they went what would have been probably like the more realistic, like Pacific Islander type stuff, even with like the tattoos mimicking the suit, that's good work. So to your point, Brian, somebody over there has an idea what they're doing. They just need a little bit more responsibility.
Yeah,
They need to be promoted because somebody's got the good head and the good voice over there. Somebody definitely does not.
Yeah, they got the wrong guy, the wrong people in the captain chair. I mean, and going back to, the Flash, like, honestly, like, for the most part, I felt like most of the comedy of the movie doesn't work, but except for the Flash, most of the time, his comedy totally works. And, like, to you said, Nick, I think part of it is, they just generally made his social awkwardness over one of his main character themes, is that's why it works. But
he's the only one that doesn't have like this this patriotic or jingoistic sense to him. Everybody else, well, Cyborg not really either, but he had a really tragic event happen to him, so that gives him his sort of edge. But everyone else is, Superman's all America, and Batman is, all Gotham, and Wonder Woman is all Amazon. And Barry Allen's just like, I'm 17. I don't know what is going on. This is crazy. Yeah, I found this thing. I can go fast. It's crazy.
Well, that's why you're mad at the grave digging scene.
Yep.
Of the execution of the grave digging scene. But I think that scene is super important because they do address it. Like, we're the accidents. Like, we're not gods, man. Yeah. Like we're circumstance. We're literal circumstance. And we should be bros.
Yeah. But why not have them pretending to be construction workers and steal a backhoe? I don't know, something like that. Like, just,
well, no. So then here's.
I know they had to dig it up.
Smash it around.
I know they had to
pretend. It out.
So
I get why.
Speaking of just like,
I know.
Of like they should be doing something else because it makes much more sense. So they have a whole scene about trying to sneak Superman on base. What happens the minute they park the truck? Everyone just shows up.
Right. Right.
So they have Cyborg hack the system to make Barry Allen show up. You're telling me that the Flash just can't run the coffin in faster than the speed of light?
Right.
Because apparently Batman just drops in, Wonder Woman flops in, Cyborg comes in out. Like
they all in the back of the truck?
No, they have the scene with like Batman up on a building, observing it, and Cyborg is somewhere else hacking. Like they're all somewhere else. Yeah. So, but Barry has to drive the coffin in. Like, no, he doesn't.
But it's just those little things, that were just so weird that it just.
Well, it's like they wrote a movie and then forgot that the main characters were superheroes.
Right, exactly.
Like, these aren't just people. Like, you're not planning the Italian job. You don't have to come up with this elaborate heist scenario. Just literally fly the coffin in.
I don't know
no
why
one's going to stop you. You're freaking Batman.
That's the thing. I don't know why it feels so different than... I think maybe because it doesn't take place in a real world. I think with Marvel movies, since it takes place in real Earth... and
like Chicago.
Yeah, actual cities, and they kind of did this cool thing from the beginning with Marvel, was that the characters had tie-ins to real life, which really worked well in the modern retellings, where Captain America is tied into the industrial military complex. Like, he's a real captain, and Black Widow and Hawkeye are operatives, and so they kind of have this pairing. And same thing with Bruce Banner. Like, everybody kind of has this tie-in to the real world that makes it interesting. So they didn't need to sneak into military bases because they could just walk into them. Or, Iron Man didn't do... Well, it's really interesting when a character isn't trying to hide his identity. And strangely, none of the Marvel characters, except for like Peter Parker at this point in the Marvel series, is really hiding their identity. And even he's not really doing it that much anymore. Everyone's just like,
he just gets outed in the last one.
So they're kind of out of the superhero closet,
which frees it up.
Frees it up.
Once that happens, you're like, oh boy, that's become such a trope that just kind of gets tired.
And I
guess I need to watch the newest Spider-Man.
Whoops.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all right. But so, and the thing too though is like with Gal Gadot, like, I mean, maybe just because she's famous, but it's like. Like, what did you do this weekend, Diana, who's obviously Wonder Woman? It's like... It's
right.
You're obviously Wonder Woman. There's not a lot of people in the world who look like you. You're like one of the legitimately most beautiful people on Earth. and maybe it's just old guys in museums.
She's a
don't watch the
curator in a
news, but-
museum. She's in Ghostbusters 2, just in the painting of Vigo.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same problem I have with Superman and Clark Kent. It's like,
Yeah,
like
we watch
oh,
his
put glasses on.
Bassmasters.
Oh wait, where'd Superman go?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
It's especially
Yeah.
bad when you're dealing with Henry Cavill. Like, Christopher Reeve almost pulled it off because he really played a very nerdy, bumbling Clark Kent in the films.
Yeah,
and it was
the
really
dopiness
good.
kind of worked.
It
Yeah.
was like, and even there's I think it is Superman 1, yeah, right, where he's supposed to be on a date with Lois, and so
Yeah,
he
I
keeps
know what
kind
you're
of
talking about.
bouncing
Yep,
back
yep.
and forth, and it's fantastic because he does the two different characters so different. But Henry Cavill is just kind of always cool, which, don't get me wrong, I think he's an awesome Superman, but they didn't ever really play on the goofiness of Clark Kent as much as
But yeah,
probably
Clark
Superman
Kent
does.
was
That's
like
true.
a super backseat in all of this.
That's true.
But
His the whole persona, and then they even did the stupid thing at the Justice League where he's walking through and he looks up and then he steps in the alley and takes it off. It's like he just broke the speed of sound, man. Everyone saw that.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Everyone saw you do that, man. I mean, I know New York City is not a city where everyone's paying attention, but
Metropolis.
sorry,
Yeah.
Metropolis. But yeah, it's some guy who looks like Henry Cable's walking around. He ducks into an alley, and then you hear a sonic boom. Everyone knows what just happened.
So, excuse me. To go along with that,
Now I'm confused. What did happen? Walked in an alley and you hear a boom.
again, it's not that kind of movie.
No, sorry.
So you would think that the mother of Superman would have a nest egg, right? That maybe the farm that nobody ever farms on is paid off.
Oh, I got
That
something
maybe
for
Lois
this too.
had, I'm sure. I mean, I feel like Lois's job is probably, in the six figures. I mean, maybe 80. Okay, I bet you could throw a bone
Well,
to.
for Metropolis, it's probably adjusted. So
The
yeah,
middle
she's
of
probably
Kansas.
Here.
yeah,
Right.
but I just don't get the farm got taken over by the bank. It's like, you guys have had that farm for too long for you not to own it.
That should be paid for.
Yeah, that should have been paid for a while ago. Clark's dad
also-
is not a good financial manager.
Yeah. Also, why at the end? Why did
He
Bruce
died
Wayne
in a
have to,
tornado. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Why did Bruce Wayne have to buy the bank to get the house back? Just buy the house from the bank, or pay the loan off.
But
But-
it's not douchey enough just to
Right.
do the direct
Yeah.
thing.
Why
You
buy
have
a
to
true.
house?
That
when
would
you
be
can
out
buy
of
a
character.
bank.
Yeah.
over the top gesture that makes you
Yeah.
a jerk.
Oh,
like,
God.
oh, thanks. Ugh.
Well, yeah, I
How'd
guess
you
like
make
in the
this
Dark
slimy?
Knight movie is like,
Yeah.
he wants to get in the fountain with the supermodels. He's like, well, actually, here's a check. I just bought the hotel. So I guess that is play into the whole I've got more money than anybody kind of thing. But still, it's just like, oh, God.
It's a great way to make a character who's doing a good deed still come off like a douche. It's great.
Yeah. It's like,
But
I
again,
bought
like,
the
do
bank.
these movies hit those moments? Like, do they address it properly? Where I feel like a
No, they
Marvel
force it
will
in.
do it, hit it, address it, and you go, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But like in these, it's just like stuff happens, and you're like, I don't know how. What am I supposed to think about this?
Well, no, yeah, somebody had the checkbox of we need to make more comments about how rich Bruce Wayne is.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we'll give him this amazing Mercedes, and now he's got a lake house now, and then he's got his own private jet, which the dimensions don't work. But then also, yeah,
He
he
has
just
to take his
I gotta
expensive
buy a bank.
Mercedes in his jet.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's
Yeah, the
like they had
Mercedes was just bonkers. I was like, I get it, like he's the richest guy in the world, but is that his other superhero?
That's his weekend car. Yeah, that's his.
Yeah,
that's
I
his
mean,
Star
just
City
grab
car.
just grab an Acura. Like, don't get all crazy, because that's just the craziest car to park in an alley. Because then eventually you park a car like that in an alley, you're gonna have to become Batman to fight off the people who are trying to steal your car, and then it's all just your cover's blown at that point.
Well, I mean, how much is Batman just doing that? Just trying to help to make sure there's zhuzh the crime to happen so he can punch people.
Yeah.
And
Well, then
it's-
it's like
I could throw money and help like this whole system get reformed and get people off the streets and causing trouble, or I could just
Or-
help it along and then punch them all. I think that's Batman.
The real life version of Batman would just be like, he would just run for mayor. I
Right.
think, or
I'm gonna
Philanthropist.
build schools.
Well, look what our current richest people do. They want to put a base on Mars, and they're sending people to space and inventing the Cybertruck.
Yeah, but that's helpful.
Right.
Hey, Elon's changing the world. You knock that off right now.
No, but you asked like what
Yeah.
would
Yeah,
one of the what is
True.
Bezos doing? He's not fighting crime.
No, it's true.
He has
Just
Are you
sucking
saying
up
they
every-
should?
just Bunting.
Jeff
That would be
Bezos
amazing.
has
Musk
has-
and Bezos
Would be
and
terrifying.
Warren Buffett fighting crime.
I'm
Bill
pretty sure
Gates in there.
Bezos is just like Scrooge McDuck, and he has like an empty pool in his house that's filled with gold coins,
Yeah.
and he has a diving board.
He just swims in it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what Bezos is doing
His
right
nephews come over and annoy him.
now. Yeah,
Sounds great.
but that's an interesting thought about the Bruce Wayne. You know, oh, we got to write in more douchey Bruce Wayne. You know, I have more money than anybody like lines, but like, you know, like the Dark Knight movies, those are like basically Bruce Wayne movies, you know, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas these are definitely just Batman, and we don't get the Bruce Wayne. You know, the all we get of Alfred is Jeremy Irons doing one-liners occasionally.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know,
Which is an interesting choice, and I think I love Jeremy Irons. I think he's great in it. I just think it's interesting to take the Butler thing and turn him into more like the
Sidekick.
chief of staff, yeah, sort of sidekick, where he's kind of running the show as opposed to it being.
Well,
What
I
it
think in
was.
some of the later
Yeah,
source
the Butler.
material,
Mhm.
once Robin dies, Alfred does take more of the sidekick role,
Facilitator. Yeah.
because there's a whole thing about Bruce not trusting anyone, blah blah blah.
well, is his costume? Is it just like his normal butler outfit, but with a cape and an A on his like shirt?
He should get an
Definitely.
A. He deserves an A
Yeah,
after that.
but yeah, I
movie.
mean, Alfred's always cool, like, you know, but it's just. Yeah, the Jeremy Irons Alfred and the Michael Caine Alfred are very, very
yeah,
different.
Right.
For
So
sure.
Do
Yeah.
we think that the Zack Snyder cut is going to bring back the mustache?
That
Well,
scene's
no,
cut.
there would be nothing.
Yeah, that
None
scene
of that
doesn't
would have
exist in the
existed.
Snyder cut.
So they just shot all that stuff after, all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Well, not. I mean, but yeah. So like, the Russian family, the cell phone footage at the beginning,
Mhm.
the Batman chasing down the thief, exposing the parademon, and
All of Superman, I think, was reshot too.
yeah,
And that
Even the stuff
first
with Lois?
Wonder Woman wasn't.
Yeah.
I feel like that Wonder Woman scene was crammed in last minute. That's
well
how I felt about
that
it.
she, like I said, that in
But that
Snyder's
wasn't
cut,
just-
she doesn't defuse the bomb.
How does she
Like
live?
if
If the
huh?
bomb blows up, how does she live?
she's Wonder Woman.
Oh, so she can just take bombs?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
now
again,
the chick's just taking
she's basically
bombs?
Superman.
Oh boy, here we go.
We're
It's
just
gonna be
teeing
one of
Eric
those
up
movies.
here.
All right.
Yeah. So I think in the Snyder cut, there's speculation, right, that she doesn't get to that bomb in time, and
nice.
that causes a rift. Like the whole like the whole dark Superman side, the whole black, it's called Black Superman just because he wears
Mhm.
a black suit. And in the Blu-ray edition, there's a deleted scene where he's walking through, and they show a suit,
Mm-hmm.
which people are like, oh, it's black. That's definitely it. I think that's a little speculative. In A, it is black, but also if you have to remember, that's Zod's ship,
Right. Yeah.
which those guys wore black
That's
suits.
how they
so
wore it, yeah.
it's not out of character for that suit to be. It's not like in we talked about the Spider-Man. It's not like Far From Home where he's flipping through the Iron Man suits and you see the specific ones from comic books as like an homage to the comic book ones. That was in Man of Steel that they had black suits.
Mm-hmm.
But then people are like, oh, it's definitely the Dark Superman stuff. But in that one, Lois dies, and that causes that causes Superman to tip, and he joins Darkseid in destroying mankind.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. Like the Snyder cut is a
The wrestler
different.
mankind.
Yes, the wrestler, the
That'd be
professional WWE wrestler. No, so,
That'd
yeah,
be a great movie.
Mick Foley just getting his ass kicked. And it was like, oh, Mick, stop! Just
Well, then
say
there's,
you're just stay in.
Just tap.
the
Bleeding. His daughter, 3-year-old daughter's crying watching him. Oh, that sounds amazing. I want that movie made.
So as
they-
Brian said, Warner Brothers, if you're listening, we know you're
Oh,
not,
if
but
you're
if you're
listening,
listening,
get Mick Foley, and oh my God, it's a winner.
You have four guys who will watch that.
Here we go again. Warner Brothers meddling in the Snyder Cut. Like, why is Mick Foley here?
There's a lot of stuff from like Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. Like there's the whole nightmare scenario that when Batman sees the apocalyptic world that's being burned down and he's having like that dream, like that's supposed to work into Justice League. And there's the scene where the Flash, which is so out of the blue, bursts into the Batcave and tells Bruce Wayne that Lois is the key. And he's like, oh, it hasn't happened yet, and it's Ezra Miller all old with a beard. There's been speculation all about what that was supposed to be and how that was really, and this is where the timing is weird too, because so if that happens to Bruce Wayne in the Batcave where Lois is the key, and then they're in the hangar talking about bringing Superman back, and then he insults Diana about Catface and brings up the heart comment. And then later, when he brings Lois Lane in to defuse Superman,
he does not have a cat face. He's handsome.
Chris
Bruce Wayne
Pine?
mentioned Chris Pine. Yeah.
I'm so lost.
Bruce Wayne
Be a second,
mentions
though.
that he was listening to Diana when she was talking about heart, which then just invalidates the Flash coming through time, telling him that Lois is the key. So it's like that whole scene where Flash breaks through and is telling Bruce Wayne that Lois, like what is that? Because it doesn't have anything to do with Batman vs Superman. If he changed the line in Justice League to that it's Diana gave him the idea, then what is that entire thing? Where did any of that go or come from?
I think too, in the original version, so in Zack Snyder's original version before the version we have, was Lois Lane dies, gets killed. And then they concoct some plan to go back in time where the Flash makes that happen to save her because of that. So that's like an integral part of the actual story that just never got told. So those things happen, or at least they were shot, maybe it was written, but it was just never done.
Because part of the speculation too, like I said, is if Lois is the key, that is basically telling Bruce Wayne, you need to save Lois because that is why Superman goes nuts.
It's
so
a very and a very, very outdated character at this point, Lois Lane, where just to have, because she is like the ultimate damsel in distress. She doesn't really, as a character in the movies and in the comics, just it doesn't really have much to do until later on, where sort of reinventing the character. It would be cool to see her take a more prominent role. I mean, because they did that with Gwyneth. They gave her like an Iron Man suit, and sort of like upped her.
Made her rescue.
Yeah, sort of thing in Iron Man, we're in the last Avengers, which is great. And so when you're in the scene where it's like, it just sucks because Superman's dead. She's just a writer now doing like fluff pieces. And you just kind of sitting there going, this is not an interesting character. You just got to sit there and listen to crazy Diane Lane talk. Is that who it was?
Well, that's the thing I was going to bring up is the fact that scene shouldn't have happened at all. Chop that scene right out, because I think when Superman is like, they're all freaking out and he's beating them all up and they're like, what's going to happen? And then when Lois Lane pops up, if that was the first time you see her in the movie, it would have had some presence. Yeah. But it doesn't, because they diffused it with this other scene that you're like, eh.
Because it feels like a cameo at that point. It feels like you didn't expect it, and suddenly here's Amy Adams, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Now we got ourselves a stew going.
Yeah, like they were referring to her as the big gun. Yeah,
right.
And that's a very good point, Eric. Yeah, that should have been the first time we saw her, because it would have lended a lot more gravitas to it. That's a really good point.
So. Good. I'm gonna check our live feed here, kids. I want to just make sure that we're still going good. Looks okay.
Yeah, I've been monitoring. We've been up and down.
Okay.
I think it's just the three of us that are logged in though. We had 4 at one point.
Did we? Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that the Snyder Cut is going to be a very different movie.
Yeah.
I think there's some very different footage sitting in a can somewhere.
Yeah.
100%. Oh yeah. And like I said, I think it's going, as much as I want to see it, I think at this point it's not going to do any service to the movie, and I don't think it's going to do any service to the direction Justice League is trying to go either.
No.
So it's one of those like, I want to see it, but I don't
Like a
want
morbid
it.
curiosity.
Yeah.
I don't. And from the way it sounds, I don't think Justice League is going anywhere. I don't. As far as I know, they scrapped the plans to do 2 and 3. So unless this movie somehow is good and it goes off well, maybe they will make 2 sequels based off of that. But I don't think really. I think this is just purely fan service at this point.
Yeah,
No, and that's why it's not going to the theater. That's why it's going to like HBO Max.
Yeah, and I think they're just going to use it to help boost HBO Max, which honestly they probably should have pulled. If they should have pulled a Mandalorian with it and just decided to do this way earlier and had it for launch.
Had it for launch or had it yeah, I mean, I know $20 million and whatever they're going to do with this is probably going to take way more time than that, but had it for launch / would have been great timing with the pandemic hitting. Would have been great timing,
right.
you know.
The world is ending, but guess what? You got the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
But guess what?
Lucky
Well,
you.
Even if they had done like what we're finding is that the Ray Stone, the whole cyborg stuff, like make that, like take that and make it a 2 or 3 episode mini series or whatever.
Its own little thing, yeah.
Yeah, and release that because then to your point, it's like, well, I don't know anything about Ant-Man, but thank you for the Ant-Man movie. Now I'm involved. It's like take this character that people aren't 100% familiar with, give them their own little thing, and then if you have flashes to the Justice League, pun intended, then you're good to go. Like then you've created something that's like, oh, now I'm, maybe I wasn't a huge fan of Justice League, but now I'm reinvigorated with my interest in this concept, this idea, and if you want to make a Justice League 2, I might be a little bit more open to it now. Instead of now, it's got this.
Yeah. Oh, so go ahead. But yeah, especially like you're saying, and what Marvel kind of did, where it's like, oh, it's going to be this character's movie. Well, it's going to be this feel. It's going to be a different tone as opposed to that character's movie. And so you feel variety. So you don't feel like you're just going to go see the same movie with the same tone over and over and over. And I think that's the thing with Snyder was like you just didn't feel that variety.
Well, that's where Marvel again, excuse me, comes in as like the big winners. Is that overall their movies, even the standalone ones, where it was focused on one character, didn't necessarily focus on that one character. It gave you enough little tidbits of the bigger story and enough like little things like Captain America Winter Soldier is a great example where you don't really know if that's a Captain America movie or a Marvel or like an Avengers movie because there were so many good characters in it, and they generally didn't skimp on what characters to put into them, so you did see some fairly decent characters in the small things, with the exception of Guardians of the Galaxy and then that one with Hawkeye, not Hawkeye, Hawkman, Falcon Man, what's his name?
Falcon.
Just Falcon. Yep, there you go.
Falcon Man.
That one felt a little
bird face man. Falcon.
I get it now that like that Falcon is intended to become the next Captain America, so it makes sense why he would be the in his own character in another character's movie. But overall, Marvel just did a much better job of integrating the stories, and even something like Captain Marvel, which takes place in a totally different time period, it still has those ties to the franchise's overall story arc.
Well, and I think what they did wrong. Well, we talked about this too. Is that DC was always probably like a good year and a half behind Marvel, so they're already behind the gun that way. But if you think about it from like, you try to step away from it and say, okay, so you've got this other superhero universe. The Infinity story has been leaked that that's the direction Marvel's going. So as a DC executive, do you say, well, shoot, there goes the dark side plan. Like, we can't do it because we'll immediately be copying Marvel. So where do you go?
Well,
then somebody made the mistake of saying, well, okay, so now they're tying Civil War in there. So now we've got 2 of their main people fighting each other. We got Iron Man versus Captain America. Oh my God, what do we? So then they're like, you know what we need? Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
Which is a bad way to go because at least the Iron Man Captain America fight, I don't want to say it's equal, but it's like science and technology,
Right.
and and like there is at any given point there's equal footing.
Superhuman, but not superhero. Like
Right,
Yeah.
but
Invulnerable.
Superman and Batman is
Right.
the easiest fight ever.
Right. Yeah, it should
Superman wins, credits roll.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Like it's 3 seconds. The movie's over in 3 seconds. So it's one of those like they're gonna linchpin their entire rollout on a concept which is just bad planning. It's bad problem solving of saying we're gonna have them fight. No, you're not. You're gonna have Batman lose horribly
be. Yeah.
and die.
I think the better play would have been if they had copied Marvel completely and done something like a cyborg movie, especially considering the strength of the character of the actor they've got playing,
Yeah.
and sort of the interesting thing. So cool, Iron Man kicked off all of Marvel. Great, do a cyborg movie, try to kick that
Yeah.
off, and then and then Captain America, then Superman, whatever. I mean, I know they were already on the Superman train, so you couldn't redo it. But there were ways to emulate what Marvel was doing that made more sense than just rushing right to Batman versus Superman. Thank goodness Wonder Woman was good, but
Oh yeah, that was the linchpin, man.
Then-
If Wonder Woman was terrible,
yeah,
done.
yeah,
DC
Yeah.
Studios,
See
close
ya.
up shop, call it a day. There's no recovery from that. If Wonder Woman is bad, you're done.
yeah, pretty much.
Because even they're still kind of like, what's happening? And they had Aquaman was a hit, and Wonder Woman was a hit, and still, it's still limping.
Well, the
along.
movies still make
Yeah.
money. That's the thing, is that they're not
Yeah.
doing badly. I think that Batman vs Superman made like $628 million or something like that. So
Yeah, it made some stupid amount
yeah,
of money.
they're
But
not
I
doing
think
bad.
Justice League lost money.
Really,
Probably.
Yeah, it was not a
more,
financial success.
Oh, well, I mean, how much... I don't know how much it took in the end to make that movie, but when you're making a movie and a half and all the delays and then that extra CGI, yeah, it sounds like a money pit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So what do we think could make it better? Is it going to be better? As a
Oh, the
series,
Snyder
in a
cut?
sense? Yeah, the Snyder cut.
No, it's well, because it's I was trying to think of a good analogy, which I'm notoriously bad at, but it's like I said, because of the tone of the cut is so different. You're either gonna have people like us that know it's gonna be different and go in there saying like, all right, this is gonna be different. Show me this different version of it. I'm cool with this. Or you're gonna have people that are ignorant to it and they're gonna go in there and be like, this is garbage.
Mhm.
And then that word is gonna spread faster than my word of it's a different movie. So if you're a fan, go see it. If you're casual, skip it.
Right.
And
Right.
anytime you have to say skip it, it's a fit.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
because Justice League already was kind of asking people to get into this world.
Yeah.
It's people that you're like, they're already saying like, well, why do I need 2 superhero franchises? I have a really good friend
Right.
who constantly tells me that Infinity War would have been totally over when Superman showed up. I'm just like,
Like,
No.
it's true.
Stop
Yeah,
saying that,
no,
Eric.
man. It's like Star Trek would have been over if the Jedi's came in.
stop
Like,
trolling.
oh, no,
Ooh.
no.
Speaking of, you guys want a real good time? Real bad time? I'll have to find it. I'll link it up for you. Well, maybe I'll even link it up. Well, I don't want to be a jerk. Well, anyways. So there's a fan film, like the Star Wars fan film, and the idea is that the Enterprise and the Millennium Falcon and then one other ship, I can't remember what it was, kind of meet in this like vortex, and so it's like a Star Wars Star Trek mashup, but they use like canon characters. So they use Captain Kirk and Spock and Han Solo and Leia, and they cast them with, I don't know where they found these people, under a rock maybe, or in that grave that Cyborg and the Flash were digging. I don't know where they found the actors, but the crazy thing was it just popped up as a suggested movie on YouTube one day, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
God.
So I clicked it, and the first couple of minutes, the special effects are amazing. They're so good. I was just like, what is this? Like, the effects are great. And then they cut to this guy playing Han Solo, who, I mean, it was just like he was like half dead. It was just like I was like, what is going on now? And then it would cut back to the special effects thing, and then the Spock character. I mean, it was just like, yeah,
Like a student film where the
Yeah.
focus was on After Effects, not the actual acting
100%.
part.
All the talent was in the special effects, and then all the actors though. It was like when you see, well, it was kind of Bizarro Seinfeld, is what it was. Is it felt Bizarro World where all of these guys were just, they clearly didn't spend any money on the actors, that's for sure. And so, but anyways, it's worth checking out at least the first 5 or 6 minutes. I'll have to find it, but again, I don't want to be a jerk, but it was pretty amazing.
Well,
I'll watch that crap.
Yeah.
man,
I know you
I'll
will.
post up some of the stuff I did in school. Oh, good.
We're not being jerks. We just shouted it out on our podcast.
That's a good point.
Free
That's
publicity.
true. You're welcome.
Yeah, free publicity. 5 people who are watching.
Smoking hot tip of the week. Watch
Yeah.
whatever this thing Matt's gonna find.
I'm gonna find it for you right now, actually.
Yeah. No, I think the Snyder Cut at this point, to Brian, it's fan service. It's a last ditch effort to give respect to the work, however you want to call that. But it's not the right thing. Like it's not going to help HBO.
It's not a move forward
Right.
in any way.
Right.
Anything.
No, it's like when they started releasing deleted scenes on DVDs. Like there's probably a reason they were cut. Like, and to be
Yeah.
clear to the audience too, like Zack Snyder was not fired from this movie. He had a terrible circumstance which caused him to step away. The studio had an investment. They did their next best.
Well, everything I've read, Joss Whedon, because Joss Whedon was brought in after they saw the cut before the tragedy, and DC was one of us like, oh crap, we need help. So they brought in Joss Whedon, and then he was on it. They were supposedly on it, working on it together, trying to fix it. And then Zack Snyder, he even tried to work on it for a while after his daughter died to try to distract himself. I suspect he was told.
Why don't you take some time off?
Yeah, you know what? I think you need to go be with your family.
Yeah.
I think the point that Joss Whedon was brought on before, if that is in fact true, which I think it is, brought on before the tragedy happened. I think it was similar to, the guy who directed Rogue One when they brought in the other guy. It's like, you can stay if you want, but you get basically going to do everything this other guy says.
Right.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I kind of suspect that Zack Snyder was going to get fired off of that movie.
Yeah.
Maybe he still kind of did, or they said, you know what? Don't worry about the movie. You go take care of business.
But that
Yeah.
makes me wonder, like, if that was the case, though, that why they didn't just post delay and then give Whedon a chance to re-script it.
What I read was that they were they wanted to keep the release date because it had to do with executives' bonuses.
Nice.
Oh,
Oh.
it's yeah.
Well, hopefully those bonuses became negatives, because
All right.
Yeah, I was like, why they
Did
would have
not
got a
perform.
bonus for that damn movie, I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, it sounds like they didn't want to push the release date.
which to me is like, I
But
think
did they
that's
not?
an old trope that, like, release dates, I get it, but
It doesn't
the-
matter as
it's-
much anymore.
that's
It really
the thing.
doesn't.
It's not like theaters are hard to get to
Mhm.
or people don't have time to go to the movies. I've seen movies 2 months. I mean, shit, Avengers was playing in the theater for like 3 months
Mm.
and still making cash.
Well,
And
and
so-
we don't have. There's no shortage of content. There's
Right.
no such thing anymore of like, ooh, I can't wait to see that movie. There's nothing else out. It's like
also
there's
that,
just
right.
everything out now.
And the thing with these big budget superhero tentpole movies, I mean, 98% of the time they are money making machines.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you spend all this money, you think you got a problem. I don't see why it's so hard for some of these studios. Star Wars Episode 9 comes to mind. Why they didn't just go, you know what? We need to take a step back. We got to push release date. We got to fix this thing because,
Right.
it's not often that those movies don't make money, even if they're not good.
Right. And at
So-
this point, I think that's it would be a huge thing to be transparent about it as a studio, as
Yeah.
a group of filmmakers, And I think it gives a lot of credibility to you when you say, hey, this is not the movie we wanted to make. We're going to take some time and fix it.
Right.
I just think sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. This is not some independent film where you're like, I need to get this out before the Cannes Film Festival requirements for judging, or I need to get this out before the Oscar nom closing. Like, this is a movie which is going to print money. You can release it whenever you want, and it's not like Star Wars. Like, if we could release on May 4th, that would be amazing. That's a goal. That's great. If you release it on June 6th, you're still gonna get me to see it twice.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I'm still gonna go probably see it in 3D, THX. I'm gonna still drop like a good $30 on this. You're still gonna get my money, but. So the rushing for release date, and it's not like I'd have to look it up. I don't think they were trying to wedge it in either, other than like maybe bonuses. But as far as like, well, it has to be this weekend because right before that is this movie which we don't want to compete with, and right after it is this. No, you are the movie that people don't want to compete with.
Yeah.
You're not trying to compete with another movie.
Yeah.
So
This is a Batman movie. People are worried about being in the same theater the same weekend as you, not the other way around.
right. So that stuff, I get it. I'm sure there's a memo, but certain movies just need to knock it off. They just need it. You're dumb. Well, then but there are certain ones, like realistically, like they push Bond. They push the new Bond movie to pre-Thanksgiving, which is on purpose because when people have Thanksgiving off, they go see movies.
Right.
So
And I also think that was COVID too.
Well, no, right, but what I'm
It was
getting
going
at
to be
though is
April?
that,
Was that what it was going to be?
it was supposed to come out in April, but what they didn't do was say September 1st.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's done. Like, the movie's done. They can release it whenever they want. They're shooting for a specific weekend. But like I said, now Bond is the movie that somebody doesn't want to compete with.
Right.
Well, that's traditional for them to do November.
Right.
Bond
Yeah, the
cases.
April thing was out of character a little bit too.
Yeah.
It brought to mind, we were going to talk about, and this is how the world's changing with like essentially Justice League going straight to a streaming service. The new Disney movie Artemis Fowl, which I know nothing about, so I'm excited about it, is releasing exclusively to Disney Plus as a streaming. The movie King of Staten Island with Pete Davidson, which is the Judd Apatow movie, that comes out tomorrow. Today is June 11th, so it comes out tomorrow on demand in all services. What my hope is that given the new COVID-19 world, we're going to get like Mulan and Black Widow and Wonder Woman 1984. Like, those movies that were supposed to be released are going to start getting stream releases. Not that I want theaters to close down, but I think what they're going to get is a disinterest lost, where people that were on the borderline of seeing this are just not going to see it now.
Yeah.
Or they're going to wait till somebody like me buys it and then they're going to come over and watch it at my house. Like, they're going to the calculations for profit on these movies is now shot. You're going to have to come up and figure out a way to.
It's going to be a whole new way to manage
Yeah.
to figure all that out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are finance people losing their mind right now because essentially, like, Black Widow's in the can.
Well, I think that what
Zero
is
profit.
is
like
is
it's all lost.
yeah, but what a great way to do this is to create that sense of community that theaters traditionally bring, where it's a release date, you're going to see a movie with a bunch of people, it's an event. And
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
like Facebook has watch parties now and things like that. I think that those are the ways that it will go for it to make sense, where here's a movie, say 1984 wants to release, great. Let's release it on Friday night at 8 p.m., but it's only available at, 8 p.m., whatever Eastern time, Mountain time, on that Friday, and then we'll release it next week, broadly or whatever. Create events around it. I think Netflix is doing something really cool with the top 10. I think it's a great idea. When you go into Netflix, it shows Netflix, and they have the top 10 in the U.S. on the scroll screen, so you can see what it is that everybody's watching. So it's creating sort of a sense of community. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. I've never seen that movie before, and it's not new, but it's number 3 for some reason in the U.S. right now. So it's showing what's trending, what people are interested in, and I think that's a cool way to do it. And that's probably somewhere in the world that we're headed towards.
Well, and I think what would be good too is if anybody from Netflix or is listening is if you're or Disney Plus for that matter, right? Set a release date for, let's say, set a release date for Mulan. Call it July 1st or whatever that Friday is. You have a well, you have to play with time zones, so you have 2 releases, and then in between those 2 time zones, you have a 1 hour like live Q&A or something that would entice or incentivize you to be there. But then you don't show it for like that's it. It's a one and done and you have to wait like a month to watch it again. So to create an enticed sense of like not like pay-per-view. I mean, it's essentially pay-per-view. You're paying for it. But to kind of create that thing of saying, like, you know, we're going to have this special event. It's going to have some extras, so try to make it. It's not going to disappear, but you're going to have to wait a couple months to see it on it, which you would have to do anyway. If you think about what the movie theater experience is for a lot of people, a lot of these movies are only in theaters for like 1 or 2 weekends, realistically, as a window for people to see them. And if they don't, they wait till it's on TV or Netflix or whatever. So this is essentially that exact same exposure, but allowing people to then re-experience, right? They're like, hey man, the Mulan watch party is this weekend. Community, let's all get COVID together. But you know, but still not losing the idea of a theater-based experience, or that, if you want to call it exclusivity, but saying like, yeah, let's have a 8 p.m. Eastern time, and then we'll immediately have like a 1 hour live Q&A, and then we'll have a rebroadcast for the West Coast because West Coast people are still at work at 8 p.m. Eastern, that kind of thing. So you do a staged release like that, but then you do it for huge movies, and I guarantee Netflix will have to call Amazon and say, I need you to boost our servers because they're crashing.
No, it would be great. I mean, UFC is doing live events and pay-per-view events. And the UFC is seeing numbers that are very similar to when they have gates, you know, when they actually have the people, when they have events where they can allow people in. So these are, you know, live events with no audience, all on pay-per-view or not on pay-per-view. They've only done, I think, 2 pay-per-views and of like 6 events, and they're huge. I mean, for one, because we're at a loss for live sports.
It's early, so it's good. They're the first ones doing it aside.
Well, then they're going to make more money on advertising dollars than they ever would with ticket sales.
Definitely.
Like you think about the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, I can't say that because it's trademarked. The big game. The ticket prices for that game are ridiculous in and of itself. They're $5,000 to $20,000 a piece. They're stupid. But when the first commercial has a price tag of like $8 million or something like that, and you think about the number of commercials you watch throughout the big game, those tickets are nothing. Those tickets are location. That's covering the cost of location and security and goods and services. You strip all that out, the NFL is doing just fine. They're making their ad money. So the same thing would be with like the UFC is like they're going to make money by saying like, oh, well, we're going to have this live broadcast. I'm going to put your logo in the center of the ring. It's going to cost you $2.5 million though. And that's how it's always worked. But now they can be like, well, it's going to be exclusively on TV, and I promise you 45 seconds of airtime of your logo upright with the main camera, like during or like when they do the announcements and they've got the referees doing the announcement, and there's always those 2 banners right there. Those things are like $1 million each. It's insane. So it's like that money is not being lost. Somebody's not being creative enough necessarily, or trying to figure out logistically. Like I said, Netflix runs on Amazon Web Services. If they were to do a release launch like that, they would have to call Amazon and be like, listen, Bezos, you're going to have to open up the entire West Coast because we're going to crash it.
You're gonna and he would go, okay, and he would turn to a crank on his wall and go...
Jump into his pool of gold coins.
I'm not going to lie, all this talk about, you know, like live Friday night watch parties on Netflix for new movies makes me sad, because as someone who likes to go to the movies, like, I think at least maybe for a while the days of, you know, tentpole movie gets released, Thursday night, midnight, Friday night, whatever, and we start seeing the overnight numbers and like, oh, it made $1 gazillion last night.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh no,
and,
I want it. I want to go to the theater.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Mm-hmm.
But
I also don't want to not see movies.
Yeah.
I also don't want
have
new
this
content.
indefinite thing of they're gonna come out when there's a vaccine. Maybe like what's that date?
Right.
A year and a
Yeah, I
half
think-
from now.
The war's over.
I think what's freaking, the financial people out of the studios and everything is they're not like, well, how are we going to judge how the movie's doing if we're not, we don't wake up Saturday morning and get our report of how the movie did last night? How are we going to, because it's all, if people already subscribe to Netflix, so it's all filtered that way, so I don't,
Yeah, you're
I don't know
seeing a
how-
lot of now. It's just attention currently, anyways. I mean, obviously, like iTunes and Amazon and everywhere where you can buy and rent movies, that's still a thing. But right now, you're just seeing how many eyeballs are on these movies,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what's helping. I would assume other movies get made and stuff like that. But Disney's doing something that I think is really interesting. That's different. Is they already have their studio. I mean, all these other groups, Amazon, Netflix, and stuff, they have their own studios now. But they had a channel where they were just showing other people's movies. And then you've got Disney that always had a Disney channel and always had studios and always made their own movies. So the switch to the app just makes sense. That's just going to work for them. They're going to
sure.
be fine. Making original content and all that stuff is going to be fine. But what's interesting is you have all these studios now clamoring to duplicate one or the other with like the Peacock. It's like ABC or NBC's thing. So they're going to start, they've got their app with their original stuff. So everyone else is getting on board where you're not going to necessarily see cable go away. OTT is going to, be obviously the supreme leader of everything. But what's happening is even the big studios like Disney releasing like an original series like they did that like was an absolute smash hit. I think that changed the game for a lot of even for Netflix. It still changed the game where there's like, oh, they've got Star Wars, they can make Star Wars series and release it on the internet. Now we're screwed. So everyone's got to step up and figure out a way in to sort of overcome that.
Well, yeah, Disney has Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and they have the Marvel shows with characters from the big Marvel movies that have printed money. Yeah.
Not to mention merchandising, right? So
yeah, like, oh crap.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't have the answers. It's a different world for sure. I know, right? I sure talk like I do, but bringing it back to the Snyder Cut thing, The Mandalorian absolutely skyrocketed Disney Plus. Like I said, we talked about it. I know there are people on the fence that the minute they saw Baby Yoda, that credit card was hot and they were a subscriber.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think the Snyder Cut is going to be enough for. I mean, people are going to still get HBO Max, but it's not going to do the same thing. It's just not going to do it. And I think, like I said, at this point, out of morbid curiosity and pop culture necessity, I want to see it, but I'm not banking on it blowing my mind. And I'm also not banking on it shifting the direction of the DC extended universe by any stretch of the imagination either. I think they're still reeling. Like, they're still trying to figure out their place in this world, and I don't think this is going to help.
No, it's just going to muddy things even more.
Yeah.
It does bring up an interesting point, though, about just OTT in general. What is, because Disney has Mandalorian, but Disney has Disney, and so we're just going to see everything under the sun be made from them and original content all day long. They're going to be great. Everyone's just going to always have Netflix because they're the godfather of the whole thing. So until the next big thing comes along, everyone's just going to always have Netflix. That's not a problem. Amazon's going to rule the world one day. Like, it's not going to be like there's not going to be a president of the United States. There's just going to be Amazon, and they're just going to run everything.
Right.
So that's going to be fine. But then everybody else
Amazon,
is
Google.
Yeah. So everything
Skynet.
else, though, just has to step it up. And so, what is that thing going to be? And so, for HBO Max, it's definitely not going to be a Justice League series, but we're still going to buy it. So,
well,
if we're
what
still
kills
going
me
to
about
get
like,
it, everybody's going to
HBO
get
in
it.
general, though, too, is that HBO is already a premium
thing.
service.
Yeah, yeah.
So now you're asking me to double premium,
Yeah.
which is a hard ask.
Mm.
You know,
See,
like
I don't
just
have
in general,
cable
like,
though, or I don't have Dish or whatever. I just have just OTT stuff.
no, but I'm saying like I have HBO,
Hmm.
and I pay extra on my cable bill for HBO. Now they've got Max, and they're like, oh, well, we're only gonna have Max content. It's like, well, I'm not gonna pay you twice.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a spit in the face to people that are already paying for the content.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. It's like
That's
I'm
very
not gonna
interesting.
pay you twice, man. One
weird
of
play.
you is gonna get cut loose. I'm either not gonna get Max, and then I will find another way to watch your stuff,
Hmm.
or I'm gonna drop your cable service and just have Max,
Mhm.
and then I'm hurting two companies because then the cable service is gonna be like, well, we're losing money like crazy because you
Yeah.
open up
now
your
our
stupid
premium
Max service.
channels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that were
now my premium
helping
channel's
us
going
out in this time.
So-
are
But at the same time, they
dying
did a
to-
good thing. Like DirecTV was super smart, and they got on this years ago, where they created their own app. So basically,
Yeah.
if you get Apple TV, you can get the DirecTV app. You do have to pay for a subscription, so it's kind of the same thing. But with that subscription, then you get, HBO, and you can get all the other apps
Sure.
that go along with it. So they kind of got on that train early and smart. But the thing is, there's no such thing as a gateway. There's no gatekeeper anymore, like cable was, or Dish, or DirecTV. Like, there doesn't have to be a gatekeeper anymore. Now it's just the app, and you go direct to the app and get the content yourself. It's not a matter of paying less or more, because at this point, I'm paying more probably than I would if I had just cable, because you add up, $6, $10.99 a month streaming services. Well, now I'm right there. So, it's not really about money anymore. It's about how much content do you want and how much can you consume, in order to make it worth
right.
it, So the bundles are where it's at, like with the Disney, Hulu, ESPN thing. It's like, it's $12.99 a month. Well, that's 3 services that I just got that used to be $10 a month by themselves. So that's a huge win, But that's just the new world. I think everything's going to go exclusive and premium, and we're probably going to see the...
But then again, I feel like it's all just going to come back together in some umbrella that's going to be cable. Like, I still think it's like, as much as we've torn it apart and moved away from cable, we're just still going to move in that direction.
It's all going to mush
Anyways.
into one. Yeah. Like, pay $39.99 and get all of the apps, but not a premium version of the app. You can only watch new content, like something like that,
Yeah,
It'll be
right.
kind of goofy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it's a model that makes sense from a structure and also from a financial standpoint. They're making the assumption that they'll pay, it'll be a monthly subscription, they'll totally forget about it.
Right.
But I don't think people. Granted, yeah, there are some people that are just like whatever. I have no idea how many subscriptions I have, and I don't watch any of them. There's absolutely those people, but then there's also the other side of it. People are going like, no, I'm not going to pay you twice,
Right.
because I paid for HBO. You are HBO. Release your content on HBO. Don't have an HBO Max, which is just Max content. Like, I'm not going to pay you twice for the service. So, right there's I don't know what the linchpin in there, but something's going to happen where people are going to be like, no, or even like the CBS All Access, like unless you absolutely want to watch a program on there, I didn't get it.
Which is what I did. I
Right.
bought it just for Picard, and then I watched 4 episodes of Picard and was like, never mind, cancel.
And cancel.
Yeah.
So
Oh, my free month. Boom. Yeah,
Mhm.
done. I mean, yeah, most people do that anyways. They get their free month. They watch whatever they're going to watch, and they're out.
yeah, I mean, there's some turnover calculation. We do the same thing in the casino world where we have a turnover rate where we calculate the number of times that people start to book a room and then actually book the room.
Mhm.
We have those numbers. We know what they are,
That's crazy.
and it's something that we monitor. I know that there's definitely people that do the same thing with the free trials of cable service, and it's like, okay, so we had X number of people sign up. How many people canceled, and how many people retained it, and then how many people 3 months from now went, what the hell is this $8 charge? Oh, cancel hard,
Mhm.
or stuck. or even just they can do this. They can monitor that specific connection and say they have it, but they're not paying for it, and they're definitely not, or they're not using it,
Not
and
watching.
they're definitely not going to send you an email that says, "Hey, did you know that you still have this account active?"
Yeah, right.
They're definitely not going to do that.
Right.
I'm gonna be nervous the next time I book a hotel room in Vegas. I'm like, Nick's watching me.
You know what's? This is not industry secret.
Cover up your
we actually
webcam.
have software that tracks all the mouse movements on your interaction with our application and site, so that we can develop metrics on the parts of our web pages that are confusing to users, and which ones have problems. Like if people constantly hit a button that doesn't do anything, or they have a logical flow process where they think, oh, I do this and this, and then I go here, and it doesn't do that, then we will modify the page to make it do that.
Wow.
Not making it better.
Yeah. It's
You're
still
welcome.
making him nervous.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys can.
Oh, their mouse goes here. Let's put it. Well, premium ads will be paid for and put there. You know.
What am I doing with my mouse right now?
I won't know till tomorrow, so you're fine.
What am I doing with it right now?
Not that kind of movie. Oh, I thought of one of those great jokes when you were saying that earlier. It was what is it? Was it your daddy's so old he shoots kryptonite dust? Way too past the initial, but remember your mama's so old jokes? Those were great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Your Superman daddy's so old.
Just cut out everything between Batman shooting Superman in the face
Yeah.
with dust. That joke right there.
Hour and 45 minutes of
You don't
content
need
that
anything
you have
else.
that you have to listen through to get that joke. So
Right.
you're welcome, 4 people.
Yeah, we're up to 4 now. Eh.
Yeah, right. Are we? Yeah. Yeah. So, well, any parting words before we call this one a wrap? I think we're not necessarily excited, but we'll watch it when Zack Snyder cut
We're
comes out.
gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see it. It's a morbid curiosity. I want to know. I want to know the cut. I want to know the direction that it shifts,
Mm-hmm.
and just to have that this is one vision, this is another vision. Probably not or love either one of them necessarily, but it was his intended initial creation, and then they shifted it. So I want to see where it goes. But I'm not banking on it driving the rest of the series.
Yeah.
They're gonna introduce stuff that they're gonna have to unwind later,
Yeah.
and that's a them problem, not a me problem.
Yeah. They're not going to ask us? What?
Screw it. You guys
They
deal with it.
should.
It's kind of like
You
the Space
solved
Force thing.
this.
Honestly, just listen to us. We'll tell you what to do. It's going to be great.
Yeah, that'd be great. We all get an email. You guys are doing Space Force Season 2.
You're welcome, America. I'm coming for you.
Same cast,
Yeah, I mean-
no money.
Let's be real. For the writers' room of Space Force Season 2, they just have our podcast going.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they're listening to us.
Oh, you guys are so right.
It's on a loop.
Yeah. This
then
is our
we get-
Bible.
They just recast everyone with everyone from West Wing. Alice and Janney as Lisa Kudrow's character.
That's everyone.
That's
Aaron
Now we're
Sorkin gets an
talking.
email. Aaron Sorkin gets a call from his agent. We just got a call from Netflix. They want you to do Space Force.
Yeah. because they listen to a podcast.
It's you, and you're getting all the writers from Veep.
Yeah.
And Allison Janney is going to be every character now.
Yeah.
Just going to have wigs, I guess. I don't know. Got deep faker face on. I
That's a
don't know.
you problem, not a me
Yeah.
problem.
That's a you problem.
Every episode, Allison Janney is going to do the Jackal. Nobody?
No,
Okay.
no. What?
That's a deep cut.
What is that?
Huh?
What's the jackal?
It's a thing Allison Janney does in The West Wing.
Oh, gotcha.
She lip syncs to this song called The Jackal, and everyone basically drops literally everything when she does it. There's a scene they just get a bill passed or something, and they're all having drinks about it, and someone runs into the Oval Office and tells the president she's doing the Jackal, and he throws everything down and runs out.
Nice.
I love it. It might be something I got to pick up. I started The West Wing a long time ago.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
first
one I
4 or 5
had a
episodes. But
roommate with
yeah.
watch it, but
Be something to revisit probably, or visit for the first time.
It's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. For all those out there in what's that place called? YouTube.
We're gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We're gonna
keep showing
on
up.
Doing it. So, all right, folks. Have a good night. We'll see you all soon. I'm gonna stop the stream. It sure was fun.